Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show. That show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our connection to that which is bigger than us, to the great mystery, to beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us exactly to where we are meant to be, to have a big realization, an awakening, an opening, a direction that fulfills us greatly. And this is the yummy soul nectar of life. I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird. I am so grateful and blessed that you are here with us today. And I want you to know that if this is you, if you're like, you know what, I'm done thinking that my life plan needs to follow the book that other people wrote for me, and you're like, I'm going to make my own life destiny plan. I'm going to tune inside and follow that path. And I'm just going to be carefree and courageous about it. Well, you might want to, be in community with my tribe and check out what we got going on. So go to my website, carriehummingbird.com, Kerri, hummingbird.com, and book a little chat and we'll talk and see how I can serve you. In the meantime, let me serve you with another fantastic episode of Soul Nectar Show. Today, I have a new friend. I'm always making new friends, and I love them. They're all around the world, and it's amazing. And today, we have the amazing Toni Lontis with us. Welcome, Toni.
Well, thanks, Kerri. It's wonderful to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. Let me tell you a little bit about Toni so you guys get an idea of who this fantastic woman is. So, after 35 years in nursing across many specialties and levels of health, Toni sat down in 2018 to write about her life after being encouraged to do so during her own healing and self-discovery process. So the result was Resilience, Memoir of a Broken Little Girl. And she discovered that she is actually a woman of strength and beauty. This book was published in 2019. She talks about her colorful life, and it's a page turner that has you on the edge of your seat, wondering what happens next. We're going to hear about some of that tonight, so you get an idea of what Toni's
Mhm.
been through. I don't want to give away too many of the details. But Toni now is a podcaster, and she's obviously an author, and she's out there really making a difference as a messenger in the world and helping people to change the conversation on the planet to something quite more beneficial than maybe what we've been noticing recently. We have so many infinite opportunities to change the world, and that's really part of the message that Toni brings. And so I want to hear your specific story of waking up to you and your purpose. Toni, let's hear it. Bring it on.
Oh, thanks, Kerri. It's lovely to be on the show with you. Soul Nectar actually is nectar for my soul, so to speak. And it's been a long journey to get to this point and to be here talking to you. So I guess we should start at the beginning. I was born in a small rural town in Queensland, Australia, and I was born with a congenital facial defect called a preauricular sinus. Happens to about 1% of the population. And the problem with these little defects is that they get really infected. They're on your face or ear somewhere, and that's precisely what mine did. By the time I was about 18 months, it had been infected so many times, and they tried to correct it with surgery. The last surgery that they did, the infection and or surgery, they're not sure which. My medical records were not easy to understand or find. My left-sided facial nerve was completely severed and destroyed, which meant that from that young age, I had a left-sided facial palsy and I couldn't smile. So I'm not sure if your listeners understand that going through life with the inability to smile or simply not wanting to smile because your smile is defective really impacts on the way that you interact with the world and the way the world interacts with you. So most of my life, people would either think that I was standoffish or thought that I was up myself because I didn't smile or interact. And it was simply related to the fact that I didn't want to smile because my smile was not something that I was proud of. If you add to that the antibiotics that they used to try and stop the infection damaged my teeth. So I had, it effectively makes your teeth yellow and grey, and the top layer of enamel doesn't come through. So you're left with drug addict teeth, which I had all of my life, and I didn't actually have the funds to fix them until I was in my 40s. So you can imagine going into early adult life that I was kind of fractured. There was a quite dysfunctional family. I had very low self-esteem, and I believe that the start of depression and anxiety started in my teens when that was the first time I tried to end my life, because I just didn't feel worthy and I just wanted the pain of life to stop. So cut forward to I went nursing, and of course when you go nursing, back then we were hospital trained, and so you started to learn about mental illness, and I decided very early on that I was never going to reveal the secret of my inner life and my inner, what went on in my brain. There was a stigma around mental health in that back in those days, and I didn't want it on my health record. I didn't want anyone to know what was going on in my head. I made friends with one of the doctors who trained around, and she actually got me to come and see her and sat me down and said, "Toni, I think you have depression, and let's see if we can get this sorted for you." I stormed out of her office and thought, "No, no one's ever going to know about this. I'm going to manage it myself." Then through my 20s, I'm not sure if the listeners realize, but there's, when you have childhood trauma of any description, and when I say trauma, that encompasses anything that triggers a traumatic response in your body, you are vulnerable as you head into life. So into my 20s, I was very vulnerable. I was searching for love and happiness. I'd never had a proper relationship with my father, so I was searching for that love and male companionship that I'd never had, desperate for it. And so in that early part of my life, there was lots of really crappy stuff. So sexual assault, domestic violence, baby out of wedlock, uh, and toxic relationships. By the time I was 30, I was divorced with 2 kids, and I still wasn't looking after my own mental health. Into my 30s, I had yet another violent, aggressive relationship. Headed into my 40s, and this was still my pattern. In my 40s, I'd met a man who, for all intents and purposes, was a decent human being, or so I thought. He had a good job, was a good provider, had the gift of the gab, and I was about to marry him. In the background of that, my mental health struggles had finally caught up to me. Mind you, I'd managed to be a high functioning depressive personality. I'd risen to the state levels of the health department, and I coordinated and managed statewide networks for high level clinicians and nurses. So doing very well, enjoying corporate life, but as many of you that may know, corporate life is often quite toxic. You have ego-centered leaders versus heart-centered leaders. You have people on a career trajectory that will step on anyone who gets in their way. And combine all of that with what I'd experienced in my life, and bang, I had my first nervous breakdown. I didn't know what was happening. Luckily, I had an amazing doctor who sat me down and said, "Toni, you're entering a major depression. If you don't allow me to help you, you will be hospitalized." And that scared the beeps out of me. And I'm like, no, 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 this can't happen. He said, "You need to stop work. You need to rest your brain. You are traumatized and you have never dealt with that trauma. You need to, or you will end up hospitalized, or you'll leave the earth prematurely." Um, And as I sat crying in his office, I was just broken. I was so broken that I could not stop crying, and I felt worthless, hopeless, useless, and it was a very deep, dark place. Into that period of my time, I stopped work. I started to take some medication and I started to get some therapy and counseling. I was about to marry this man who I thought was amazing, this man who hugged me every time he went out of the house, this man who told me he loved me every day. And this this man that I thought was the answer to everything. Um, at that time, when I stopped work, I started to be home more often. There'd been ongoing issues between my daughter and myself, and I thought I was the issue. I thought I was a flawed mother, and I thought that was the reason for her angst and her sadness and her behavioral issues. 2 weeks before we were about to get married, she'd started to come home and talk to me in the middle of the day, and there was a regaining of a beautiful relationship. And I was really excited because I thought, oh wow, we're getting it together. I didn't know what was about to happen. Um, this particular day, I was going to meet my best friend for lunch to talk about wedding plans. And my daughter rang and said, "Hey, Mum, what are you doing today?" I said, "We're going out to lunch." She said, "Can I come with you?" And I was delighted. I was so excited. I really thought, oh, wow, this is fantastic. My best friend, my daughter, out to a girls' lunch. I couldn't be happier getting married in 2 weeks. So we went out to lunch and normal chit chat. And then my best friend turned to my daughter and said, "What's going on?" And the look on my daughter's face, I will never forget it. I see it in my dreams. I can still see it clearly now, almost 13 years later. Her face was grey, white, devoid of emotion. There were tears trickling out of her eyes, and I just knew that something bad was about to happen. Um, my friend said to her, "I don't need to know what's been happening, but you need to tell your mum." And the lunch ended abruptly, and we proceeded to go towards the car to drive home, and my daughter grabbed my keys and said, "Mum, you can't drive. I need to tell you something." As we're driving, she started to explain that she had been abused for a very long time at the hands of this man I was about to marry. And at that point, when I didn't think that life could be any worse, it just got infinitely worse. I did 3 things in that moment. I called the police. I sent him a text message and said, "I know everything. Do not come home. I never want to see you again. The wedding is cancelled. Do not contact me or anyone in my family." I didn't know then what I was going to hear in the coming months about what had transpired, but I knew that I couldn't allow him in and around me anymore. When you talk about spirit and intuition, in that moment, for the first time in many, many years, spirit was with me and I worked intuitively for the first time. I called family and said, "This has happened. I don't know the details." And we went home to bunker down and wait for the police to arrive. The rest of what happened after that time is in the book, and it was nothing short of horrendous. And that deep, dark, black, hopeless period of time led to phenomenal growth because I started to search and seek and research and read and learn about domestic violence, trauma, sexual abuse, the statistics, and I became very clear and focused that I was put on this earth to love this child unconditionally, and no one else could do that. That was my sole job. And that's what I did. So I researched and read and worked out all the things that I could possibly do to help her because statistically, she was going to end up a drug addict, an alcoholic, or suicide. Now, all of those things transpired in her life at various stages in the ensuing years, but we managed to work our way through those. That sort of trauma at that key age in a girl's life leaves lifelong legacies that she needs to battle and heal with. And for the most part, she's done really well in doing that, just so your listeners know. But as I started to work on myself and do that hard work of addressing my thinking, my mindset, and my beliefs, my face started to heal. And for the first time in my life, I had a left-sided dimple, which I have to this day. And the face that you see on the show today is not the face that I grew up with. And even though I still think it's pretty flawed, it's it's a beautiful smile, and I can look in the mirror and go, it's Toni, it's a beautiful smile, and it's okay. So a lot of that work happened in my 40s. And then as I healed and started to tell elements of my story, people started to say, you need to write, you need to tell people about this, you need to offer the hope that deep trauma can lead to a happy, wonderful life. And that was why I wrote the book the way that I did. I didn't write it to give blame to anything, but just a simple, these are the things and these are the behaviors that lead to this sort of thing in people that are growing up. Has the book been cathartic for me? Absolutely. Has there been family backlash? You better believe it, which only makes me want to talk about these issues and family dysfunction, the impact that trauma has on our lives. I only want to talk about it more, because the more people that know and hear that this has a lifelong impact on you, the better the world's going to be, because we need to heal our trauma. If you don't heal your trauma, it will show up as mental illness or chronic physical disease. So you need to address these things, and you're not going to address them if you don't talk about them. And that was part of the key for me, that I needed to start talking about some of the deep, dark stuff that went on in my brain and that happened in my life. Needed to unpack it, look at it, examine it, heal it, and move on. And I believe that that will be part of what I do until the day I die. There will always be things. There will always be stuff that you need to be working on. But I'm here today to tell you that there is happiness, wholeness when you start to do that work. Kerry and I have had a little bit of a conversation before we come on the show this morning, and Kerry too. We have lots of similarities. Kerry writes extensively about the mother wound and the generational impact of not healing those things. So I'm absolutely aligned in what Kerry talks about, in needing to heal generational issues. Our souls come back to this earth with the principal purpose of healing and growing and learning. And if you don't do that, if you don't believe that you're a unique, amazing being with unique talents and messages for the world, whatever that message looks like, it doesn't have to be a big, broad vision of your life or a purpose. It could be just in quietly serving and giving to others. For others of us, that vision is massive. We have a massive desire. We've been given a privilege, I believe, that encourages us to step out of our comfort zone, not sometimes, but all the time. I believe that I've been given this gift to challenge what people think and say, to challenge the keeping of secrets, and to shine the light on the secrets that surround us and keep us in trauma and don't allow us to live our best lives, because that's what you want to do. You've got one life. You've got one lifetime to get this right. And if you deprive the world of the best version of you, you're going to come back again until you do it. So why not do it in this lifetime? Why not do the work that leads you to the best and most brilliant and most unique person, because there's only one Kerry Hummingbird. There's only one Toni Lontis. And lots of people can do stuff that's similar to us, but the people that Kerry speaks to can only hear that message from Kerry. The people that I speak to can only hear that message from me. So what are you depriving the world of by not healing and working on yourself and not following that intuition that God gave you? What are you depriving yourself of in terms of the life that you could lead simply because you want to keep that secret silent? So for me, the book led to so many other things. I've continued and continue on my healing journey each and every day. I learn and grow, and I talk to amazing people like Kerry all the time, who instantly gives me more than I could ever ask for in terms of knowledge and understanding, empathy, and spiritual brilliance. So for me, I've come from writing a book. I segued into online radio, and now I have a whole range of live streaming shows across Eastern and Western America. And I broadcast from my home in Australia, across to the servers in the US, and then out to the world. So podcasting for me is actually a byproduct of the live shows that I do. And I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't. So, just for the listeners to get a grasp of how much you need to grow. So, when I wrote the book, I was too scared to get on a Zoom or make a call to someone I didn't know. And when the conversation about podcasting led to an offer to have my own show, I was petrified. I spent the first 6 months of the show being physically ill as soon as I got in front of that microphone. But I did it, and I did it, and I did it because something tweaked in me that this is what I needed to do. And I discovered a passion that I never knew existed. If you told me in my younger life that I would have an international live streaming radio show, I would have laughed at you, because there was no way that this imperfect person was going to show up in the world in any way, shape, or form. But as the vision got stronger and as my desire to help more people got bigger, I kept doing the work. I kept focusing on healing and dealing. And it's hard work, it's painful work, but it's so worth it, guys. It's so worth it to live the life that you dream of and that you want. And you know when you get there, because things flow. People come into your life, just as Kerry came into my life. And I have to say this, when your life is in flow and you're doing what you're meant to do, that you're following your intuition, people come into your life and they just, my heart's beating at the moment, really because of that connection that I feel to Kerry. And that's only because I would never have met Kerry. Kerry would have never been in my sphere of knowledge and understanding, or my realm of connectivity, if I wasn't walking in the flow of my life. And believe me, the universe will just connect you with the people that you need to speak to, that need to hear your message. And if you absolutely believe that, like Kerry and I do, then the rest is just, it just flows. It's easy, and you just keep doing what you're doing consistently, day in, day out, and the people that need to hear the message will hear the message. And that's how we change the world. That's how we heal people. That's how we encourage people to live their best life. That's how we heal mother wounds. Because there will be people listening to this show that go, oh my God, what is that? Connect with Kerry. Kerry's got an amazing book coming out soon, and you will understand the importance of healing those wounds and the importance of healing them, not for you. This is not about you. This is about the generations that come after you, because genetically speaking, our trauma sits in our genes and it gets passed on to our children until you heal it. Once it's healed, it's done and dusted. There's new lessons to learn, there's new healings to do, but you've knocked off that big one. I want to heal my generations. I don't want my grandchildren to suffer as I've had. I don't want my granddaughters being told what they have to do. I want my granddaughters to intuitively know early in their life that this is their life path, and they have permission to do that. They have permission to speak and seek and live their lives as unique human beings. That's the world I want my grandkids to grow up in. And that's part of what Kerry and I do. Yeah. And
Yeah, it's so
again, I'm
powerful.
so privileged to talk to amazing people like Kerry. That would have never happened if I hadn't done the work and I hadn't stepped outside myself and realized that this is about a bigger vision.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
about a bigger vision. This is where it's like it seems selfish, right? So there's that word selfish.
Yes.
And that's a word
Yes.
that's used, toward me with my
Correct.
family of origin. It seems selfish to
Yes.
do this work and it'd be like, oh, well, I'm going to write this book called Healing the Mother Wound. So that's selfish towards my mom, but actually it's not because it's not about her.
It's
It's
not.
really
Yeah.
about the generational healing that is happening right now on the planet for everybody. So like this is
Absolutely.
not about bashing moms. Let's just say, like, our
No.
moms through the generations, they have
We
struggled.
love our mums.
Yeah, they
Yes.
have,
We
we
love
see
our
what they've
mums.
been through. We see all the struggle
Yes.
that's been happening for
We see.
generation after generation after generation after generation. And we say
Yes.
no to it now.
Yes.
We say we are
Yes,
healing
we
that
do.
now. We are not doing that
Yeah.
anymore.
Enough, enough, enough.
Enough,
And
enough,
yes,
enough.
the the backlash from people who are largely unhealed themselves is quite a burden to bear. And I know that Kerry understands this because we've had many conversations about the backlash from unhurt, healed people. But greater than the pain of that, and it is painful sometimes, greater than that is the knowledge that we need to talk about this. There are many generations of women who need to heal the mother wound, and it's imperative that we get that work done now. So I will continue to do what I do despite the attacks that come my way, because this is not about me. This is not about my mum. And let me say, I love my mum unconditionally, that she did the best job she could do. But I need to do this work, and we need to talk about this work, Kerry. It's vitally important. The next 10 years will be some of the most amazing, spiritually enlightened, and beautiful years that we will ever face. And I want to be prepared to that for that. I want to
Yeah,
be
and
accepting of that.
we have to prepare our girls, to know what's
Yes.
appropriate and what's not appropriate. Same for our boys. I mean, this
Yes.
mother wound doesn't just affect women. It's like everybody because we all come from
Correct.
a mother.
Yes.
We all come out of a mother. It's the only
Mm.
way to get to this planet. So if
Yeah.
we're going to do that, we have to understand like all of these dynamics that are running through the collective. They're all based
Correct.
in the mother wound. They're all based in this denial of the feminine matriarchal power and the benefit of it. It's not like a power over thing. It's not like trying to have, okay, now
It's
the divine feminine matriarchy is going to stomp on the
yes.
patriarchy. No,
No, no, no,
yeah,
no.
that's not
It's
about it.
about it's
It's
about giving voice to
honoring.
the feminine, and it's a
Yeah.
powerful strength of energy that needs to start filtering its way across the world, because things need to change. We need to end the patriarchy. And again, that's not to stomp on men, that's to empower women so that their voices are raised and the strength of the feminine energy starts to make the differences that we need to see. The differences include leadership, the treatment of women, slavery, women having choices. It goes to consent and rape, and all the things that happen across our planet will be reduced by women having a powerfully quiet feminine voice. And again, it's not about women being men, it's about women understanding the power that they hold in their feminine essence. And it's a beautiful thing. And it needs to be recognized as something that can change the world, because I don't believe that the masculine energy can change the world. I believe that it has to be a feminine energy in collaboration with the masculine energy. And so women need to rise up to that equal place for that to happen. And we're not there yet. And we need to. And we need to do the work, and we need to do it now.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And it's, you know, it's like the healing is ancestral. So every time we heal ourselves, we're
Yes.
healing seven
We heal
generations back
generations.
and forward.
Yes.
So the,
Yes.
and you know, we
Yes.
have to talk about it. You can't heal it without talking about it. I love that you said that. There's like
Yeah,
my mom's generation, and maybe we share the same mom generation,
we
is
do.
very
We
like,
do.
don't talk about it.
Don't
Don't
talk.
air your
Don't
dirty
talk. Don't
laundry.
speak.
Do not speak about it.
Correct.
Pretend it's not happening. Hide it.
Correct.
You know, stuff it
Yes.
down. Deal with that in your private
Don't
therapy
talk.
session. Don't talk about that in
Yes.
public. And they just hate
Yes.
social media for that reason. Because if it's not
They
like
do.
showing how wonderful you are and how perfect, and it's like
They
talking
don't want to
about
know.
something hard, they're like, don't talk about that on social
Yes.
media. That's not for public consumption.
Yes.
That's, you're not supposed to talk about
Yes.
your family or anything else like that on social media.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
but there
I'm
is a
here to tell
line,
you that
there
we
is a
have
line
to.
too. We
We
have
have
to,
to.
with compassion and understanding and also honoring people's
And
privacy.
love.
Like, so there
Yes.
is that balance of like, how do we honor? This is a, I think this is a navigation that we all personally will go through as we redefine,
Correct.
you know, these conversations as we start to realize that we're all part of the same mechanism, the same collective consciousness,
Yes.
and we're experiencing pieces of
Yes.
that.
Yes.
That we'll have
Yes.
to find a way to, I'm personally navigating how to have this conversation without it being about a specific person that birthed me, because it's not really about
Yes.
that. It's like about a
No, it's a
theme that runs through the collective, a pattern,
yeah.
and we're
Yes.
dismantling that pattern. So
Yes.
it's not about a
Yes.
specific person, it's more about the pattern, and I
Yes.
experience the pattern.
And it's
It's not.
yeah, it's difficult to talk about without referencing our mothers. And I too, I so agree with you, Kerry. It's such a struggle to do this work, to talk about these things without talking about people that are close to us. And I have to say it again, it's always done with love, unconditional love and healing. So I wish my own mother nothing but the best. Is she part of my life? No. But that's also a loving boundary that I've put in place because I feel called to help women with this stuff. I'm not saying that that will go on forever. I'm not saying that I won't ever speak to her again, but I have to do this work. That's the price, is that boundary that I have to keep. And unless, uh, and the other thing is that they are also responsible for their own healing. They're responsible for their own journey, and it's not up to me to force that on them, but I'm going to continue on my journey because it's important, isn't it, Kerry?
It is. I like that you said that too. It's like they're on their own journey. Actually, when I was
Yes.
finishing up the book, Healing the Mother Wound, and I was preparing the final version to go out to my testimonial people, I was
Yes.
having a lot of resistance to finish it, and I was noticing, wow, I'm really
Yes.
resistant to finishing this book. Okay, what's going on,
Yeah.
you know? And it
Yeah.
was this feeling of like loyalty. It's like my loyalty to my mom, so strong.
Mhm.
And
Mhm. Mhm.
I had to do some plant medicine ceremony with that because I was having a hard
Yes.
time like releasing that loyalty and that attachment to
Yes.
her
Yes.
opinion or whatever. And I was
Yes.
like, okay.
Yes.
So then I got this message, like the Divine Mother just came into me and she just said, Carrie, you're not her teacher. I am.
Yes.
Don't you think I'm
That's right.
asking? I never ask you to do anything if it's not needed. And this is
Yep.
needed. And she's
Yes.
like, you do what you're here to do and just let me,
Let
because
me
you don't
do.
know like what she needs to learn and it's none of your business.
That's right.
So
That's right.
whatever she needs to
Absolutely.
learn from you doing that, if you don't do this thing, that won't initiate the lesson that she needs to
She
learn.
may not. Yes.
You need
But
to
that's
do
the
it so
thing
it
that there's
initiates that lesson.
yes.
So hard.
That's I'm not sure that it is. It's
It
incredibly
is because
hard
you want to save and
from
protect your mom just like you do your kids.
yes. Yes.
But you can't
Yes.
because they have their own
Absolutely.
lessons, you know, and there's one teacher, you know, so on
That's right.
earth. So,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
that's right. That's the thing that I've struggled with too, Kerry, is that knowledge that you have to do this tough stuff because if you don't, then it's not going to trigger the lessons and the learning that they need to do. So I'm getting quite teary listening to you, because there's an understanding and an empathy there that I share with you about the toughness of this work and this situation. And I would love nothing to jump on the phone to my mum. There's days when I long for an interaction, but I know that if I did that, it would be toxic. It would not. It would not result in something that was helpful, and it would be harming. So I don't, until spirit leads me to do that. There will be a time when that happens, but at the moment, I know that I just have to rest and understand that I need to keep doing what I'm doing, because that leads to lessons, understandings, learning, and healing for other people. Again, it's
And
not
to give
about
each
me and my
person the
story. It's
dignity.
about,
Yeah.
yes,
The dignity of
yes,
their own
yes,
path and the dignity of when they learn something or don't learn it. And I was
yes,
also trying to force, like, I was like, okay, well, hurry up
yes,
and accept this body of work before I publish it so that I don't have to feel bad about it. And that
yes,
also is like deflecting my own work. So I finally had to let that go too and just be like, I
yes,
gave her an advance review. I said, this is what's going to go in the public, and you have 4 months to come to terms
yes,
with it or not. I gave her a long
yes,
window of time. It was done like 4 months
yes,
ahead of time. So,
yeah.
okay,
Do
and
you
if you
know
don't
if
want to, you
she's,
don't want to, then that's okay. That's
has
your
she
choice.
responded, Kerry?
She just,
Has she responded?
she
Because I did the
just
same thing.
wants me to stop
I just got,
talking.
yes,
Like,
yes.
just don't
I was
do
just
it.
going to
If you
say,
don't do it, we can be
yes,
together, we can have a relationship, but if you
yes,
do it, then we
yes,
can't, and
yes.
kind of thing.
Same, same.
And that doesn't
Yeah, yeah,
work. I
yeah.
mean, it works
It
fine, but it
doesn't.
does, the thing is, like, I then have to move forward. That's basically it. It's like,
Yes,
this is the
yes,
work that needs to get done on the planet. I'm the one put in place to
yes.
do this as part of a
To do
collective
it.
movement. And I'm just going to
Yes,
have to let the chips fall where they may. And then maybe beyond the veil, when
correct.
she goes back beyond the veil, she'll then have the clarity to see, oh, that's right, I forgot.
That's what it was about. Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
about me. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
about this thing that's going on Earth, and I forgot I was said I would do that. Like, because
Yeah,
I think that
yeah.
sometimes we might choose lives either, and I'm not really here to speculate on my mom's soul age, but I think sometimes we make soul agreements, and sometimes those soul agreements require a great deal of earth amnesia in order to fulfill it.
Yes,
And not only that, but
yes,
like a lot of people in our demographic are talking about the
yes,
narcissism aspect of the generation before,
yes,
like the denial
yes,
and the I'm not going to admit it and hide it
yes,
and be perfect on
yes,
picture, but then
yes.
keep all the shit in the closet.
Yep,
That's a very
yep,
narcissistic way of looking at things. Is like, well, how else are you going to hold the biggest shadow? I mean, think about it. Like,
yes,
this is the movement out of the patriarchy. Our
yes.
parents' generation, ours, and then our
Absolutely.
children's is the pivot. Like, that means
Yes,
that they're holding the deepest shadow of the manipulative
yes,
feminine in their
yes,
field on the way out.
yes,
You could not be an
yes,
empathetic person, an empath person, in hold all
yes.
of that at the same time. Would be too painful. That's too much to
Absolutely.
ask.
Absolutely.
So
It
of
is.
course
It
they
is.
can't feel it. Of course it's narcissistic. Of course they're like, oh, there's nothing
Yes,
wrong with me. Because how do you hold
yes,
all that suffering that has got to be
yes,
held, all that darkness, all that shadow
yes.
on the way out? You can't if
Yeah.
you're feeling it.
I.
It's too much.
It would be too much, wouldn't it?
And
Because I
then we come
know
in and
that
we have
I.
to feel everything
Yeah.
because, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
because we're
Yes.
healing it.
Yes.
We're actually
Yes.
healing it. We can't heal it
Yes.
if we don't feel it.
Yes.
So we feel
Yes.
all our whole
Absolutely.
generation is the feelers. We feel it all. And we're like, how do
Yes.
they not feel
We
this?
do.
Because they can't.
Yeah.
They're holding the
Yeah.
shadow.
It's too
But
much.
we have
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
they're actually doing a big service. And
Yeah.
we just have
They're
to change
holding it on
our
our behalf,
perception. Stop being so judgmental
which is
about
a
it.
really which is a really loving way to look at it, Kerry. Like that is a very loving understanding to realize that they are holding that so that we can heal the next generation. That's beautiful to think of it that way. And yes, but that don't speak, don't talk about it. I'm going to sue you if you do talk about it. Like that's what I've been dealing with and Kerry has been dealing with in the last little while. But it's not it can't stop. We have to talk about it. We have to talk about these things until it becomes so commonplace understanding that the world is healed as a whole, because there's a ripple effect. So Kerry has the people around her and it ripples out to her network. So I have the people around me and it ripples out to my network. We converge and go like this, and there'll be other people out in the external that will have the same or similar message, and it happens. And that's how the energy spreads out across the world. And that needs to happen in this next 10 years. And this is the start of it, I believe.
This is the start of it, yeah, and as we were talking about before the show, because we're recording this at the end of 2020, by the way, but it's not going to go out until
Yes,
April. So
yes,
you guys are hearing this in
yes,
April. We
yes.
already know the energy in April is going to be very different than what we're feeling right now.
Beautiful.
And
Yes,
right, and
yes,
so like basically in
yes.
2021, if you haven't gotten the download yet about it, or if you're not experiencing it yet, the
Mm.
2021 experience is pretty much going to be and is, wonderful if you did your work in 2020.
Yes.
If you didn't, it's
Yeah.
okay. I love you. You're out there. It's all right. Don't worry. If you weren't
Yeah.
motivated in
It's all
2020 to
right.
do the work, then dig in now
There'll be
because you don't want to
opportunities.
wait till 2022.
Two.
So, because it'll
Agreed.
be even harder if you haven't done the work. So just
Yeah.
realize that the volume is going to get turned up every
Up.
year until
Mm-hmm.
every last soul on the planet has chosen to come along. And
One. Yes.
because also we're all going to the next octave. So as you
Yes.
submit, then you move into the next octave, you
Yes.
flow with it, everything's
Yes.
fine. If you don't come along,
Yes.
well, and you dig your heels in, it gets more uncomfortable. So you don't want to do that.
Because that's the
Do the work.
that's right. That's the thing, Kerry. We are um, supposed to have an abundant life. Our life is supposed to be filled with abundance and flow and happiness, with moments of hard work and sadness. But that's our highest, that's our human experience. That's what it should be. So if people get this and we have this healing, then lots of amazing things. We could see the end of all the patriarchal type leadership situations. We can change the fact that there's poverty. We can change the fact that there's rich and poor. There becomes a universal conscious equality. And isn't that the world that you want to live in? Like, isn't that how it should be, where people are equal and you don't have to worry about paying the rent because there's someone who's a bit more abundant who is led to help? Like, that's the world. Spirit-led humanity.
Exactly right. And we get there by doing the hard work. It's so funny because most people avoid transformation work because of the fear that gets kicked up. But actually, the fear
Yes,
is exactly the thing you need to dive into because it's just that's what's holding you
correct,
back from claiming the
correct.
garden. If you don't move through the
Yes,
fear, you can't claim the garden. So you have to do
yep,
that. That's the 888. That's the work. It's like extra
yes,
diligent, disciplined, staying clear, spiritual path, hard work in that sense.
yes,
And then that
yes.
reaps all the rewards because you move through the fear and into the love, and that's what we're doing. So we just
And
have to do it.
Kerry, the other thing
Simple.
is that like, you feel the fear and you do it anyway. And can I tell you, when you
Yes.
do it anyway, it gets easier. So you just have to walk through that door once and then it gets easier.
Every
You're not
time.
going to stop feeling the fear. You're not going to stop feeling uncomfortable, but it gets easier. Once you do it consistently, and off you go. It becomes easier. So now when I get in front of the microphone, only occasionally when I've got a big interview will I feel that sick anxiety. And again, it'll prompt me to go, okay, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling that way? You're okay. You are equal to this task. And it just dissipates. And that's the thing. Once you do it once, step into that fear, whatever it is that's holding you back, it will get better. You just got to take that first step, though, you know?
Exactly. And if you don't take the first step, you don't open the magic door and step through to
No.
go, oh, that was a total illusion. Like it's kind of like you walk through the
Yes.
door and then you look and there's nothing there. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I thought there was
Yeah.
some block and there's no block.
Yes.
It's all in your
Yeah. Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. I know.
You know,
I know.
and you're not, the other thing is I've learned is that when you get these messages, when you finally tuned in and you get the messages from spirit and from your ancestors and guides,
Yes.
and they say do this thing, and you're like, but if I do that thing, I'm really going to upset certain people in my life. And if
Yes.
you just
Yes.
do it, there is a bumpy road. It is
They will.
rocky. I don't want to say it's not, because
But
it is, but
yes,
it will
correct.
heal,
But
sort itself out eventually. It'll sort itself out,
yes.
and the truth will be revealed. That's the thing. The
Yes.
truth will be
Yes.
revealed in its own time.
And
And
spirit.
when it does, they'll usually come back to you and say, you know what? I realized
Yes.
why you did that.
Yes. And spirit looks
So
after
you just have
you
to be
and
patient.
rewards you, doesn't it, Kerry? Like the
Yeah.
spirit will, it's like it envelops you in a Teflon coated shield whilst you do that work.
And plenty of
You still
stone
have to do,
allies on your altar.
yes, yes,
Lots of stone
yes.
allies to protect you. And
Yeah, yeah,
tobacco.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
always blowing the tobacco
Yes,
everywhere. I'm like, because until your
yeah,
energy elevates, you're sort of like in the same
yes,
paradigm as all this negativity. So you really, it's like
correct.
if
You
you don't
have
want the
to rise it up.
negativity, you've got to go through your own negativity. Because if you don't go through your own
Yes,
negativity, you'll never get through that
yep,
part and you'll keep receiving negativity.
yep,
But if you just move through
yes.
it, basically, if other people are being negative, at that point you don't feel it. You just
That's their
feel
stuff.
neutral. You're like, oh, that's
Correct.
that's theirs.
Yes,
Okay, well, all right, you're feeling that.
yep,
I have
yep,
empathy,
yep.
and I'm not going to change what I'm doing because I'm
Yes,
doing what Spirit's telling me, and I know what side of
absolutely.
my bread my is buttered.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
got to do what
But
Spirit says.
until you, yes, and until you actually do that, you don't realize the fruits and the wonder and the beauty and the love that's on the other side. So just do the work.
Just
Just
do the
do the
work,
work.
commit to it,
Just
get uncomfortable,
heal
be
that
vulnerable,
shit.
share your shit, talk about it, get it out in
Yeah,
the open. Yeah,
yeah.
because like we've all
Because
got, here's a secret. We all have gone through so many similar things. Like
absolutely,
that's the secret.
absolutely.
There's
Yeah,
like nothing to
you're
hide.
not
We're all
alone.
going through the same stuff.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, in different
Nothing.
ways.
There's yeah. And do you know when you start talking about that stuff, it ceases to have power in your life. It
Hmm.
ceases to control your mind. It ceases to create negativity. The moment you start talking about it, the moment you shed light on it, it ceases to have power over you.
Yeah, and this is about freedom. It's about being free. So
Yep.
if you
Yes.
want to be free and you want to be in the flow, well, you have to surrender all your self-judgments, all of your shame,
Yes.
all your guilt, all your blame, all your worry,
Yes.
all your victim, no longer on the victim
Yeah.
corner. Have to let that go. And,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
heal. And then you step into a whole
Yes.
nother paradigm, which we're already emerging into, which is pretty awesome,
Yes.
people. You want to be
It
here with
is.
us.
It
It's
is.
fun.
I was just going to say you want to
It's
be
so
in this
much better.
space because it's good and it's better and it's worth it. It is so
It
worth it to do
is
this
worth
stuff.
it. It's worth it. And you can just tiptoe right through the tulips and have your journey while
Yeah.
other people are getting like this right in
Yes.
front of you. And you just waltz
Yes.
right around it and you're like, oh, they're doing this.
Yep.
Okay, well, I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's basically like
That's
that. It kind
right.
of gets to that place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
we've got about 10 years. I think that I got the same download you got, 10 years of this
Yes.
transition.
Yes.
And it's going to be a whole
Yes.
new earth on the other side of this. Like you won't even believe how fast
Yes.
it. I actually listened to, and
Yeah.
I think I told you this before, but I listened to Richard Rudd, an interview with him from Gene
Yes.
Keys. And he was talking about
Mm.
because I love the
Yeah. Gene
butterfly.
keys. Yes.
The
Yeah. Yeah.
butterfly
Yeah. Yeah.
transition.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was talking about the dragonfly transition, which is like
Right.
apparently dragonflies, it's like almost instant. Like it's not like the butterfly. At least the butterfly's got to be inside a cocoon and all this.
Oh.
Apparently the dragonfly is like this water creature that swims, and then
Yes.
all of a
Yes. Yes.
sudden
Yes.
it just wants to climb up some stalk of grass and get on the sun, and then the sun hits its
Yeah.
wings and it goes through like a lightning fast transition.
Instantaneous. Oh,
That got me
wow.
thinking like this is the this is the lightning evolution. This is an
Yes.
evolutionary leap that we've talked about
Yes.
other times have happened throughout human history. The evolutionary
Uh-huh.
leap. It's like was a caveman and then there wasn't.
Yes.
And there right?
Yes.
And the caveman just
Yes. Yes.
disappears. Well, that's what we're doing
Yes.
right now. That's it right here.
Yeah.
It's an evolutionary leap.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anybody who doesn't come along just
Yeah.
becomes like a caveman.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. I, we need to, that's the next human evolution, is that understanding of conscious and spirit, and what we as human beings have the ability to create in our lives by how we manage what goes on in our heads.
Absolutely. Yes. Gosh, this has been amazing. I could talk to you for hours, Toni. Seriously.
I know, I love talking to you too, Kerry.
It's
But I
amazing.
know that we have to finish up.
You do. So Radio Toni is her show, and I'll send you a link to
Yes.
our interview on Toni's show. And
Yep.
so also, what else can they do to check you out? Like how do they get started with you besides the radio
So,
show?
yeah. Yeah, I have my own website too, tonilontis.com, radiotony.com. Radio Tony is focused on the shows and who's coming up and who's co-hosting, and I've got a wonderful series of shows at the moment called Tackling Trauma with Tracy and Tony, where we talk about the impacts of trauma on people's lives and what it shows up as in our body, mind, and spirit. And so that will be going until Christmas. And if you want to know any more about the other shows, they'll be on radiotony.com. Kerry and I are going to sort out an interview towards the end of the year as well. Once I can get into Kerry's schedule, she's got a few things coming up. But yes, Kerry and I will be having an interview as well. And ToniLontis.com, that's where I have lots of my lovely ebooks, downloadables. I've got a hope therapy course coming up shortly, which will release hopefully before Christmas. I've got an online radio and podcasting course that's released at the moment. But either of those sites, there's lots of downloads and lots of freebies, lots of ebooks and information, so that I can give back to you and give you the information you need to live that better life. And yes, Kerry and I will have an interview coming up probably towards the end of the year, and that will be equally fun to listen to.
Awesome. Well, thank you for so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom and having such a like your powerful story and your words of inspiration just really touched my heart. I know that it touched everybody out there as well. And so if you really felt moved by this conversation with Toni, go ahead and like and share. Give us a nice rating on iTunes or YouTube,
Yes,
wherever you found it, because that's how the engines decide it's important, is when you engage with it.
yes,
So put a comment,
yes,
share it out, give it to people that you think might watch it, and then just let it go, because if they watch it or not, it doesn't matter. You did your part, you
yeah,
shared, you connected. So thank you for doing that.
yeah.
And we're going to give you kisses now. Want to give kisses? Let's give
Oh,
kisses on the way out. So here they come, everybody. Oh, we love you so much. Here are kisses.
we do. Mwah, mwah.
We'll see
Thank
you
you so
next time.
much.
Thank you, Toni, and we'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show, everybody. Bye for now.